Hello there, everybody. This is shadowgear655 here doing a review of Kairos, the Overseer. Kairos, the Overseer. So, man, this guy looks pretty great in his light box. So, for those of you who may recall, I had a podcast a while ago called storytelling or whatever, and I mentioned a character who was like this kind of childlike, godlike being who was going to be the main antagonist in my storyline. And I kind of dropped the whole childlike being thing, but I did keep the time thing. I kept time. I kept this is him. This is the main antagonist of my story. This is Kairos. And man, he's a biggin. Dude is a big boy. Out of the way, I'm going to get a size comparison going here because I may as well. I can't even keep them all in frame without, trucking my camera back. Who's a dude I can grab off the top of my head? Who can I grab? Well, there's some Glyos. There's a Gundam. There's a Woody. There's an empty water bottle. Case in point, this dude is very, very large. I'll just say that. I'm going to start from the ground up in just a moment. But before I do, there's something I've been meaning to clarify. And this is completely my fault for not stating this anywhere else. And I'm just going to say it here. So, there will be a bio in the bottom, and there was a bio in the slideshow as well, including everywhere else I posted this guy. A bio telling his story, and that he is one of the members of, like, a council to Lady Void. And these are, like, these god deities characters who exist on a completely different dimension, and they all have a boss, and the name of their boss is Lady Void. I will say this. Lady Void is not my character. Lady Void is Molly, a.k.a. Elira's character, the character to my fiance. So I decided that we're going to blend our stories together in terms of characters interacting, in terms of what can happen. And because I liked Elira so much, I made Migrator, and I wanted to make another character that would kind of mix into it, and it just so happened to be Kairos, because he fit in with my storyline. He's the main villain, and he's kind of a traitor to the council. So it's interesting. I think it's really cool. So I just want to state, because I know a lot of people have been asking, and a lot of people have been asking her, and I just want to state for her convenience and for yours, Kairos is a part of Molly's story. We are co-opting and sharing the story, but the character Lady Void is hers, first and foremost. It is not my character. I will not be building it. She will be building it. And yeah, this guy's just a part of the world. So, whoopsie doodle, your finger is a little bit weird there, sir. His finger looked a little bit weird, but let's move on to the lower body. It would normally be a pair of legs, but the thing is he doesn't have any legs. So the original concept I had of this guy is that I never planned for him to have legs. I planned for him to have this kind of giant spire. It was going to have a lot more gears. It was going to be a lot more steampunkish, but ended up not being that much steampunk. Well, maybe there's a little bit of it in there. But yeah, this is the main thing. I want to state, yes, these are clear Technic lift arms that came out with the new Pod Racer. I shouldn't say new, that's actually a few years old now. But it was a newer version of the Lego Pod Racer Star Wars set. And to hold everything up together, the KKK slider. Whoops. They came with these clear lift arm bits. And these are great for a stand. And I bought a handful of them originally for another character, but then these work so perfectly with Kairos, I needed to buy like another set of these guys in order to make the full clear stand. Which there's some light gray in here too. Like it's not completely clear, but like when I walk into my room and I see him on the shelf, I don't immediately notice the stand. I just notice the giant black spire. So it's a win, I guess. So that works out. I'm not going to be spinning this guy around. It's actually kind of one of those moments where I wish I had a lazy Susan of some sort, so I can spin this guy around so you can see everything. But it's all the same on the one side. There's 4 sides to the spire, and this is the main side here. So, I guess starting from the ground up, here we have this little piece, just nice, just simple cone piece. It works out. Then we move into this little bit of detail, which I'm quite a fan of this little bit. So as you can see, we have some kind of like these nice like windmill gears. I don't know what you can really call them. I kind of forget what Bricklink does call them. But the nice windmill gears, like the ones that were on the new Toa, using these to hold these pieces together, and then you got this little bit of clips here covering that little bit up. There's a bit of dark strands pink in this guy. There are two places where there's more of them, but there's not as much on him. So I always debated, like, should I use, like, because as you can tell, there's a lot of pale pink in this guy. There's a lot of it in him. And as to why I chose the color pink, I thought, why not? Because I was thinking of color schemes for this guy, and black and gold was definitely the first and foremost, but I wanted to add a cool secondary color that's normally not used all that often. And I first thought sand blue or sand green. And I thought, that's okay, maybe I'll use that. And then, I don't know when I had the epiphany, but I thought about it, and I'm like, oh, why don't I just use, like this pale pink color? Because I have a ton of those studs. And thankfully, at the same time, the LEGO store also has a bunch in the pick brick section as well, so I grabbed handfuls and handfuls. I can't count how many studs are in this guy. I really don't know, because there's a lot of black ones on him too. But yeah, I chose pale pink because I thought it'd be a cool contrast to the gold, and a lot of people seem to agree, so that's great to hear. But yeah, you got these little spire pieces here. If I had one small regret with Kairos, I kind of wish I added more of these decoration bits to him. I mean, it's kind of implied throughout his entire design that he has kind of like a quad spike thing, like in the head, and like, on his back, and his hands, It implies it, but I kind of wish I added more of these. I like this little effect quite a bit. Then you move up, you have some clear canisters here, some little dome pieces, and that was something interesting. The idea of using those clear kind of dome container pieces originally came from another MOC. It was going to be a MOC that was like, oh, he's going to be like this other collector who, like, I guess I really did combine two characters, because this guy, as I stated previously in other videos, he was meant to be like a childlike being, and I know there's a little dude in his belly. He was meant to be like a baby or a child, which I completely scrapped that idea. But he was supposed to be like a childlike being who had the powers, and he was like the head commander and the head villain of my storyline. And then there was going to be another dude who was just going to like copy the abilities and appearances of all the heroes and then make like malformed, like really wretched looking versions of all the characters. Like, here's Circuit's gun mode, but it's the arm of another dude, and here's Namaste's arms just hanging off someone's shoulder blade, and this guy just has Guardian's legs, but they're mangled. Like, something like that. And all over his body, he was going to have a bunch of clear studs and clear containers all over him to show, like, oh, he has samples of everyone. And I decided to combine those two ideas into one MOC, where Kairos' backstory is that he can copy a particular person from a particular planet and dimension that's lower to him. So, like, and I got a couple comments about this, too, of someone saying, oh, what if are you saying the copies are all robots? No. Like, straight up, if you walk down the street and see a human, you go, oh, that human looks cool. You look at that human, copy him, and now you have two of the same human, where one human is in their timeline, and the copied human is in his timeline where his world is. So no timelines are disrupted. That's how it's explained. But yeah, that's how that works. I think it's a super cool idea. I got the idea originally from the video game Soma, which came out last year. The idea, I don't mean to make it a spoiler, but it deals with the idea of copying. And that struck a chord with me really big, and I thought about the idea of using it for myself. And I feel like having this dude who can, like, I may as well just pan up to himself because I'm talking about him. Having the idea of a dude who can copy anyone he desires and then can place them into his own world without them knowing, I think that's super interesting. Because he's basically making a giant, like, galactic ant farm that he's just studying with. But then when he's done studying and like being amused by it, he just gets bored and just destroys the planet on his own. Like, he goes down to their level and destroys them with his hammers, which the hammers I'll get to. But yeah, so I think that's interesting. I guess I'll get more into that later, I guess. But moving up from this little display here, I also have these little Ninjago Spinners. Back when Ninjago had tops, like you could put a minifigure inside this round kind of shuriken thing, and then they would spin. And I thought that was kind of weird. I don't know. But there's a ton of these pieces on this guy. And I wanted to use them for decoration. And there's like a Technic, like 1x1 brick with studs all around it here for some detail. I think that looks really nice. Also more of these little spike kind of chandelier. This whole thing just kind of looks like a death chandelier, in my opinion. Like from here down, it looks kind of weird. But really cool. I like it. So I guess I might as well get into some finer detail. This may take a bit longer for me to edit, but I'm gonna take this guy apart in the midsection so you can get a better idea of what's going on here. Because there's a lot. There's some details I put into here that you really can't really see. So let's go take a look. So now that I've taken him off his wheel, which, if for those of you who are not aware, this wheel piece came on the Glatorian set, the Tornadus, which was a vehicle back in the Glatorian days, back in 2009, I believe. But now that I've taken this spire piece off, there are more of these little spinners here. They're kind of on the inside. That's a detail you can't necessarily see because the wheel and his whole body's kind of covering it, but I added it there to fill it in. I think it's a nice little touch that a lot of people can't see. And also, if you look closely at the photography, you can notice there are some bits of blue and maybe some bits of red in him that you're not supposed to see. That's because you're really not. Because if I pull one of these guys off, you can see that this guy kind of has some, well, I'm going to go into manual focus because I'm the best. But you can see some bits of like blue and trans black, clear and red. Like that's what's all holding that together. A bunch of very loose and precarious system pieces strung together to hold those spinners in. And yeah, that certainly is something. But you can't see it when the MOC is fully assembled, so I didn't bother changing the colors. I mean, in the photography where you're really like, staring at it, then yeah, you can tell. But for the most part, 99% of the time, you really can't notice it. And I have this little piece here as kind of like a spacer for when that goes back in. And then while I'm down here, may as well, because we're kind of at level here, there's also this little disc piece that I made. Also, there is a large, whoa, I'm kind of scared because this guy might topple over. Large clear dish piece here that's kind of holding this little wheel together. And I'm actually very proud of how this came out. There's a bit of stress on the plastic to make this work, but I think it's a really nice effect the way this works out. There's one of these dudes are missing a little antenna here. Yeah, it's that one. That guy's missing it. It's a bit of a bummer. I forgot about that and just until now. But yeah, I think there's a nice little bit of detail. So the little dude inside, again, this will take longer for me to figure this out. Well, not figure it out, I mean disassemble. But I'm going to take this little guy outside of the little pod here, and we're going to take a better look at him, because I didn't really show that in pictures, because I wanted to save it for the review. Exclusive! And yeah, after everything disassembled, this guy is Kairos. This, like, I dropped the idea of him being like childlike god, but I still kept the idea of having a dude in, like, the belly, using this particular piece, which I'll get to in a second, using that particular piece to put a dude inside of there. And this is the little dude. This is Kairos. Now, the idea of, like, putting a small dude inside the belly to begin with is an idea taken from Okami. There's the final boss of the game is Yami, who is, like, this small seal on a glass ball, which he was certainly one of the inspirations for making this guy. So I just wanted to carry that idea over. The helm I like here, this is like a little piece that was from Ogle, which was one of the first Alpha Team villain. Actually, no, the main Alpha Team villain. Who am I talking about? That guy just fell off and he flew off into space. But now I grabbed him from space because I'm MOG. But yeah, he has no legs. He's just kind of a dude here. And then he has these giant little fist-looking things. Like, he has no limbs. Like, he's just this little being here. I probably should put something on the chest here. It's kind of bland, but I don't think it's not all that necessary. But yeah, here's the little dude whose little thing just fell off. That is something. But yeah, there he is. I think he's a cute little guy. I'm going to take this bottle cap back. And the little glass container, or the plastic container that holds them together, there were the most recent Jurassic Park sets. There are the little ball, kind of like hamster ball type pieces that come in two pieces. And I got it from that because I thought this would be a really cool piece to use for it. And as I'm going to assemble him together, there's something that people pointed out, and they're like, oh my god, that's really cool. That's a really nice idea. That they mentioned, like, oh, this guy's time, so the pink must be like sand, right? Okay. All right, so that means that, like, this little middle body piece means that he's an hourglass, and this middle piece is the hourglass where it meets, and in between there's a dude inside of here. And I'm like, yeah, that was totally the idea. It wasn't the idea, honestly. Like, that was a happy coincidence that people thought this guy was meant to be like an hourglass type thing. That did not come to mind, but as soon as someone mentioned that, I'm like, oh, that makes so much sense now. Not like it was confusing. I just wanted to put a dude in the middle. But yeah, that's awesome. My God, I can't believe I didn't think of that myself. But hey, it totally works. So, yeah, he's kind of, Kairos is kind of in shambles right now. So, give me a minute for me and probably like a second for you, and I'm going to put them back together. Okay, I'm back. So, one something else I wanted to mention, I probably should have mentioned this before I put this guy back together, is the connection for how this glass container is connected to the torso and the bottom. So it's kind of hard to show now that I took it apart, but it's just kind of frictioned in there. If you take a pinhole, a normal pinhole of like a Technic lift arm or whatever, and you put a stud inside of there, the connection's pretty tight. So that's how he's held together. And frankly, he's held together a lot sturdier than I thought I would imagine. Like, you can wiggle him around a little bit, except that falls off, which is ironic because this is connected by an axle. But, well, actually kind of halfway through with an axle. But, yeah, this guy he's certainly not sturdy. There's a lot of parts about him that are actually very fragile. So you don't want to pick him up by the waist and shake him around, but he's more durable than I expected. And I don't know, man. I really like my guy. So let's move up from this little middle section and move on to the torso, which has a lot going on here, man. There's quite a bit. So the whole piece that's in the middle of this is the Onua 2015 chest piece with no sticker on it. And then my whole goal was to like, well, I'm going to make my own little fancy chest piece. And this is what it turned out like. And I think it looks pretty cool. I think I like these bits on the side here. I like the gears here. There are some black spikes right here, which I probably should have just made them gold, but I think they look perfectly fine being black as well. I think that works out. I don't know why I always think of this, and I shouldn't probably say this because it may ruin it for some people. When I look at the gears and then this little bit here, this looks like the Pringles man to me. I don't know why. Like, these are the eyes and like the little fake mustache, and then like that's a smile. Like, it looks like the Pringles man. I don't know. I probably really shouldn't have said that. Whatever. But yeah, that's the main torso bit. There are some Hero Factory shells of armor here surrounding the whole glass dome piece to kind of make it look a bit more natural, because that was actually a really big challenge with making this guy and using this piece, because I made this spire originally and it was smaller, and once I put this piece on top of here, I'm like, oh no, this guy's gonna look like, he kind of looks like he has a beer belly to begin with, or like just more of a stomach, but because he was smaller, it was way more accentuated, and it looked really bad. So I needed to make the MOC a lot bigger, and I did. And part of the thing I had to do was put these shells around it, because I think that there's a curvature to these particular pieces that kind of fit around the dome enough to where I think it looked really nice. So I used that, and I felt like, well, I need a really big chest piece, so subsequently I used this big one from Onua. So that works out. And then moving on to the shoulders, I'm gonna do this. I'm not even going to do a fade on that. I'm just going to keep that in there. So here are the shoulders. This is one of the most fragile things on the MOC, because these are literally connected by a half of a pin, and like they're very loose, and there's enough head clearance for him here. But if you tried to like move them out of the way, it does not work. But yeah, I like these chain bits here, and the chains on the face. I'll get to the face, but the chains here I think are a really cool touch that lead into here in these pods, and with a ton more of these little glass, kind of like glass sand pieces in there. Yeah, I like that detail quite a bit. I found a way to jam a little bushing piece. I don't know if you can see that. There's a small bushing piece in there that can fit inside this armor piece, and I think that's a cool touch. I think that's a cool way to have a connection. even though it may stress the piece and it may technically be illegal, but there are some illegal things about this MOC if you look hard enough. But yeah, there's that. I'm also going to remove the head for just a moment so you can get a better look. Oh no! Oh no. Oh no, the sand is about to fall out. Oh! Hi, this is shadowgear635 and I almost had a small heart attack. Oh jeez. Okay. Alright. Wrecked. So yeah, you can see some details here. Like these little kind of a collar piece. It actually went all the way around when I first did this, but it didn't look all that great. So I just want to add some pieces to the back. And you may ask, how is this connected here? How are these two spike pieces connected? Very fragilely, if that's even a word. Very much with fragile. There's a ball joint connected to the gold one in here, just a normal ball joint, and then I frictioned it in there into the black one. So it's not the most stable, but if you don't touch it, it's okay. So that's something. All right, let's move on to the arms. Knight of the Spear. So the arms I'm actually very proud of in terms of posability, not necessarily durability, because this actual shoulder block here, it's a little bit loose because the connection isn't all that great, but for what it has to do and for what it holds, I think it's perfectly fine. But yeah, this giant kind of wheel piece on the shoulder, I think the shoulders in general look super wide, super duper wide, almost to an obnoxious level. But I felt like that, like, you know what? If I'm going to make really obnoxious shoulders, I'm going to go right into it. And I did, and I think it looks pretty good. So yeah, this old black wheel piece that I think originated back in 2009 with Bionicle and Power Miners at the time. Then you have this gold wheel piece, which was in the Akimu set for his shield. Another little tiny wheel piece, and then this clear dome with a bit of dark trans pink in there as well. So there's the other inclusion of dark trans pink, some on the bottom, some on the top. I guess it kind of works. But then again, the trans pink is kind of a minor thing enough to where, like, you can notice it, but it doesn't look out of place. So I think it looks okay. Zooming out here, I'm going to go over the posability just for a second. His arm can't go out all that much. In fact, his arm can't go out at all. It can go inward a little bit, but the wheel's kind of blocking that articulation. But he does have a good joint here in the shoulder for moving up. And it actually stays up using one of the newer style hand connectors. This connection works out really well. I mean, when he's holding his hammers, he kind of has a hard time, but he doesn't really need to do much. Also, here on the elbow, there's a really good bend here on the elbow. I'm actually really proud of myself with this design. So he has that. The arm can't bend out all the way, but because of his arms are hindered by the wheel in the middle of himself, his arms don't really have to go straight down. In fact, they look better kind of curled up. So that's perfectly okay. So also the upper arm design in general, there's a lot of finagly stuff going on back here with this piece. But if I pull that off, you can't necessarily tell how that's built, and I definitely don't intend on doing a how-to on this guy because I would lose my friggin' mind. But yeah, that's it, and I just use this piece that also came on Akimu, or certainly a lot of other sets, but not in America. Just use that piece to cover that up, and then Bob's your uncle. So the next piece I have here is the lower arm, and I think this lower arm is super rad. How this all came together. I love using these gold slope pieces here. I originally were going to use them for the hammer, but I came up with this arm design, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to use this for the arms, and it works super well. I think it's super cool. And notice a lot of studs on here. A lot of studs on both the arms, and that is because I don't have a lot of normal 1x2 round bricks like that. So I have a lot of black studs, though. So I just used a bunch of those, and it looks fine. Looks perfectly okay. Not like it's a big thing. It's kind of ribbed. I guess it kind of works with the design as well. But yeah, you also have more of these little canister pieces, which they wrap all the way around the arm, which I think is a super cool look for this guy. They're a bit fragile, though, the way they're connected. They're connected by a stud, like everything else. But I knocked the microphone. Oh, geez Louise. Geez Louise, I'm doing acrobatics here. But yeah, the general look I think it's cool to have them all the way around. It kind of gives the illusion that there's like one canister here in the middle, and these are just kind of jutting out the side, and the whole center thing is filled with the studs. That's a super cool detail. I like that. Also, this ring here for like the cuff for the wrist makes it look powerful, makes it look cool. And the hand design, it's a bit of a rehash in my end, but it's also a little bit new. I originally planned to use Obelisk's hand design for this guy, which if you don't know Obelisk, you can look back at pictures or the review or whatever. It was kind of more of this giant, like, gangly, emaciated hand, which I thought would work out for this guy. Ended up being way too big. So I decided, you know what, let's take this 1x2 double axle piece and put that there instead of like the droid arms. And this looks like this is more of a really good like standard giant arm or giant hand design. Like the thumb I think is a bit more in proportion. The fingers are the same size, but it gives the sense that the fingers are longer with this extra little piece here. And like it gives it more articulation, and you can still make a pretty decent looking fist. Well, I guess a kind of decent looking fist, but yeah, I don't know, man. I like this hand design quite a bit. And some of you may actually not know how to do this, and I'm going to state this right now, because a lot of people who just grew up with CCBS don't really know this trick because they didn't have this piece. This is an older style hand connector this thing is connected with. And as you can tell, there are these two little vents right here. You can put a 1x1 or a 1x2 brick in here. It frictions in. It's not the best connection, but it does work. So you could put a piece right there like I did here and add a little like clip piece here in the middle. Well, little clip piece here in the middle to kind of make that a sturdier connection, and it totally works. So for those of you who were not aware of that, there you go. Okay, let's move on to the weapons or the head. Let's do the head, actually. And here you have the head design, which, my God, I'm impressed with. So when I was working on this guy, I'm thinking, well, he's going to be the same species as Migrator and a Lyra. So I wanted to have kind of like an upside-down mask, kind of a helmet look. And I was going through my collection. I couldn't really find a mask that really worked. Well, nope, that's a lie. Lewa Mata's mask in black actually would have fit over a particular head design that I had, but I didn't have it on hand. But I'm going through and I'm like, you know what? This guy has clear pieces. Do I have a clear mask? I don't have a clear mask. And then I'm like, shit, that's right. So I go through a bin of stuff I like to keep, like mementos, and I had the container of the clear How from Comic-Con 2014? Comic-Con 2014, where this mask was like a giveaway, but I ended up paying like $30 for it on eBay at the time because I really wanted the mask because I was hot on Bionicle at the time. Everyone was. So I'm like, oh, I'm going to use that. And I think this looks super cool. I mean, you can totally tell the difference. You can totally tell it's a mask if you look at the eye holes up here and stuff. But because it's clear, you can't pick out a lot of those details. And the pink studs that are behind the head, oh my God, they look beautiful there. Like they're super clear. He's not barfing out studs, if that's what you're wondering. That's not meant to be a mouth. That's just a byproduct. I mean, could I have done a better job to cover that up? Probably, but I didn't think it was necessary. But now it just looks like he has a little stud barfing out. Guess it's kind of funny. I certainly could afford to put more studs in here, but I don't think it's necessary. I think it's fine the way it is. Also, the chains here, they're not meant for structural integrity. They're just there for decoration. And I think the way it loops back around into this hair piece, I guess it's not really hair, but it's like these crystals on the side, which it's super convenient that when these came out with, Takar and Onua, the most recent Toa duo, or Toa and Beast duo, whatever, that they were pink, they were gold and trans clear as opposed to gold and trans purple. So this is a great piece to use for the side of the head. And I guess, somewhat ironically, I'm using the Mask of Creation for the back piece to kind of give him this crown effect, which for a guy who copies stuff, he doesn't actually create anything, he just copies it. So I think that's kind of funny, thinking on it. Okie doke. This video is already long, but let's continue on to the weapons, which are his two giant hammers. And here are the hammers. They are in two pieces, because here is the handles, which I'm going to pull off his back. And then here are the actual barrels of the hammer. Oh no, a red thing. Whoopsie doodle. I'll just keep that on there because I don't care that much right now. I probably should make that black. It's okay. It's fine. But here's the actual head of the hammer. So, a couple little tidbits about this. There were originally studs on the inside of here, like the rest of the motive of the MOC. The issue is that because putting the studs in here made the head of the hammer so heavy, he definitely could not hold them at all. So as a sacrifice, I had to take some studs. I had to take all the studs out of here, which it makes it look a little bit more weird. Like, studs can definitely fit in here and they won't fall out. But if I gave him stronger arms, I would have been able to keep them in there. But not like it's a big deal to begin with. Some side detailing here. Nothing particularly crazy going on with that. Also adding this drill to the end of it. A total last minute choice. But I think it's a cool little effect. I like it. And the cool thing about this, the whole reason this thing looks the way it does, is because of this. So if I take this off, if you can tell for a guy who's time related, this is a clock face, or at least it's meant to be, because there are 12 studs that are in the perfect positions for a clock. And I try to find pieces to use for hands that I could pose with it, but I couldn't. So I just use this L-shape kind of bracket to, well, not bracket, but lift arm. And it kind of simulates like, oh, look, it's 9 o'clock. Like, the idea is that if he wants to go to a particular time or adjust things, like, he would use this, or like, oh, I just thought is maybe if he wants to banish something to a particular realm or a particular time, he moves these to adjust when. So whenever he hits that one thing, it's teleported to that. Oh, that sounds kind of cool. All right, whatever. But yeah, here's the hammer head anyway. And then we combine it together. And then he has these giant hammers, which are pretty cool. I mean, they're all right. I'm not going to take the time to, well, I guess maybe I should. I've already gone and disassembled this guy 5 ways from Sunday, so I may as well put these hammers in his hand. Hold on. Hold Ron? Guys, you gotta hold Ron. I'm back, and I had to really move this thing back because there's a lot of space going on here. But here he is holding the hammer. The wrist is more or less okay. It's kind of falling out the axle, but he can hold the hammer not that well, I guess. He could definitely hold it over his shoulder like this and hold them down. If and when I do stop motions of this guy, he's not going to be flailing his hammers around. He's probably just going to be moving his arms a bunch, which the arm poseability, like I mentioned earlier, is totally fine on its own. Him just posing. Dude can even cross his arms if he really wanted to. Like, that's all I really need the arms to do. So I could make the arms more durable and posable, but I could either then add pistons, which would make it, they would add silver that I don't need, or I could sacrifice the look of the arms in order to make the arms more durable, and I feel like for what I need it to do, this is perfectly fine. So, yeah, he can hold the hammer over the shoulder or just straight down on his side, and that's all I really need it to do. So, yeah, that's that. So I'm going to put this crap back on his back, and then we're going to do some closing thoughts. Overall, I'm a super big fan of how this MOC came out. I think this MOC is on the level of like a Sovereign or like a Migrator. Like, there's I put a lot of time and effort into this guy. It took about 2 months, maybe even a little bit more, because I was building him during my school semester. And I kept working on him, and I finally got him done. And my God, he turned out fantastic. This guy is giant, this guy is menacing, and I think he's very fitting to be the main villain of my storyline. But the thing about him is that he lives on a completely different plane of existence as our heroes. So, like, they need someone to be a medium in which they can contact him or fight him. Otherwise, the best that they can know is that this guy exists. Like, I guess I don't want to make it, like, biblical, but in the idea of, like, oh, they know there's a God out there, they just can't see him. So it's like that, but then, like, the fact that this guy treats himself as like this god who's creating these worlds is completely wrong because he isn't a god. Dude's just a deity. Dude's just like, he has this power and he abuses it, and that's why the people who, are under Lady Void are looking for this guy because dude's in motherfucking trouble. That type of stuff. I don't know. Between me and Molly, we haven't really worked any of that out. But yeah, that's Kairos. I super love this MOC. I am a big fan of it. It looks great on my shelf. And dude's pretty big. What else can I put in there? How about a water bottle? I'm sorry. Anyway, guys, this has been Shadow Gear 635. And I hope you all enjoyed the review, and I hope you all have a good day. And, you know, this video is already long enough, but how about some bloopers, man? What exactly fell off here? There was a... Oh, that was the stand. Oh. I may as well talk about this while I'm trying to fix it. So the stand, it looks fragile, and it's not particularly fragile. I mean, if you really shake him about, he may fall. These little black pieces here are just used for stability. There's no real locking point. I probably should have something there, but there's no real locking point. It's not really necessary. But you just kind of lined up those lift arms to the grooves of this wheel, and that alone is pretty sturdy. Yeah, there we go. He's fine. Dude's okay. Should I afford to make him a better stand? Yes, but I don't think he really needs it for the time being, so... okay. Now I gotta fix this head. Oh, this is like surgery. This is legit surgery. What I'm trying to do here. Oh, jeez. Oh, jeez. The very last thing I want to do is take apart this head in the particular way that I would have to in order to reinsert these studs back into here, because it is actually kind of a pain. I mean, it's a cool effect having the how and stuff. I mean, I think it's a really cool use of this piece, considering I paid like $30 for this mask. But like, seriously, like this is probably going to be a blooper at the end, isn't it? Yeah, it's kind of a pain. And I could afford to put more pink studs in here. I mean, there's more room, but like I don't think it's necessary. You just need it to cover the face. There's a straggler over here. No, that's the chain. Okay. Just going to take this, put that back on top. I'm out of focus. Boom. Yeah, put that back on top. I'm going to try and loop this chain around and then kind of put that to the stud on the side. Oh. Okay. Then I'm going to put the Mask of Creation back on here. And then I'm going to put these little side bits back on his head and clip them in as best as I can. Oh. Okay, it's coming along. It's coming along. There we go. His head's back together. All right, let's goodbye. Got a case of fish in love. Oh! Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! Oh God! This is a process that I now need to go through. Oh, jeez. Well, this should be okay, because I need to put these pieces that are holding that together in here. Okay, I'll do that. And then I gotta take this off, and then take, that off. Well, I guess now I'm showing it then. Yeah, and you take that, and you have to friction this in here to the best of the ability. Okay, that's good. Everything still spins. And now I need to carefully put this back on here and line that up. There. Okay, that did it. He's back in action. Oh, son of a fuck. You see, this is the kind of shit that the people who take fancy pictures of fancy, cute-looking MOCs on Flickr don't want you to see. They don't want you to see their stuff falling apart at the seams like most of their MOCs do. Just like mine! I'm just transparent. Get it? I'm transparent and I want to show you this stuff. Oh, man. Oh, God. Okay. Oh! Oh, not like this video's long enough as is. Okay. Something fell off. I don't care.